Welcome back. All right, so coming out of Prague 0-2 was not the plan. For the Buffalo Sabres, the plan I would think would be at least a split. You have a new coach in Lindy Ruff. You have some new players in the lineup. There's some excitement about what you might be able to do. And you come out 0-2. And not just that, but they only scored 2 goals in that set. They lose 4-1, and then today they lose 3-1. And honestly, they got outplayed in the first game. The second game, they started off better, but then New Jersey just took over. And if you're a fan of the Sabres and you feel like, should I be concerned? My answer would be yeah, because we've talked about this. Teams that get off to slow starts have a hard time. You have to pass a bunch of teams. You have to have a really good record if you had a slow start in order to catch up to everybody. And so there's some reason for concern. So they have a while before they play their next game, which is good news here, right? So between now and Thursday, you're going to have practices. You're going to have time to figure out what went wrong and try to fix things. Now, they also have to deal with going from playing early games in Europe and coming back over here, and you're going to have some jet lag. But again, and they have until Thursday to right the ship and to get things going when they'll play the LA Kings. You'll notice the asterisk there because the LA Kings, a playoff team this past year. So that's the home opener. And you're going to want to win that home opener because you want the fans to be excited and maybe it works. Maybe Buffalo goes out in front of a hometown crowd and does really well, right? So that's on Thursday. Then on Saturday, they're at home against Florida. The hope with Florida would be that maybe the Panthers have a slow start to this season because it does happen with Stanley Cup winners at times that they'll have a slow start to the season. It's not the end of the world. If you're Buffalo, you can't afford to start 0-4. You can't. 82 game schedule or not, you just can't afford that. I really do think the Atlantic is going to be really tough this year. And so for Buffalo, they need to get off to a good start. So of these 2 games at home, I think we're already in a territory where they can't really afford to lose both those games at home and start 0-4. Because again, you've given up 8 points for that season, and now you're going to be chasing. You're going to be chasing. You're going to have to get on a bit of a run, and you're on the road. Now, this road trip is not daunting in terms of they don't play a team that made the playoffs this past season, but they play against Pittsburgh, a team that was pretty good, missed the playoffs this past season. So they'll have to bring their A game there. That's on Wednesday. So between the Saturday game against Florida and the next game, which is on the road against Pittsburgh, they've got a couple of days. And so, again, if they don't do well at home, you have some time to maybe right the ship. But again, Pittsburgh will be good. And then the next night, they're in Columbus. On Saturday, they're in Chicago. So they play 3 games in 4 nights. Chicago is going to be better than what they were this past season. I think Columbus is going to be better than people are expecting. And so, yeah, Buffalo's going to have to be careful because otherwise, this 0-2 start could get out of control. And they have a 3 game homestand then before the month is out. So they have a Sunday and Monday off, and then on Tuesday the 22nd, they're at home against Dallas. We know how good Dallas is, or at the very least, how good Dallas was last season. No reason to think they won't be at least that good this season. Then on Saturday, the 26th, they're at home against Detroit. So they only have 2 games that week. Both of them are at home. So there's a chance that they get this all straightened out. And then on the 28th, they're at home against Florida. So they got 2 home games against Florida this month. And, I mean, if you lose both, that's 4 losses there. If they can't beat Dallas and LA. And again, these are some pretty good teams. And even the teams that don't make the playoffs, like Detroit right here, well, Detroit was right there. They were tied for a playoff spot. Just missed because of regulation wins. So I really don't think there's a game on this schedule where Buffalo can take it easy and expect to win. Maybe Chicago, but I still think Chicago's going to be more competitive. Now, after that game on the 28th, they have 3 days off before they play on November the 1st against the New York Islanders. And that's a home game as well. But, yeah, the New York Islanders, that's not an easy one either. And then on the 2nd, they're on the road. So they have back-to-back games, one at home and one on the road. So the only goals they have so far this season are from Thompson and Power. And one thing that I've talked about with the Buffalo Sabres plenty when we're getting ready for this season is They need the goal scoring to come back to where it was in 2022, 2023, and they have to keep the puck out of the back of their net. Allowing 7 goals in 2 games. Their goals against average is 3.5 as a team. Their goals scored 1. They're averaging 1 goal per game as they've scored 1 goal in each game. Pretty easy math there. But they need more. They didn't get any points in Prague from Rasmus Dahlin. It's a big year for him. He's the new captain. Dylan Cousins was prominent, did not end up getting a point. Jack Quinn had some decent moments today, but we'll talk about Quinn again. There were no points from McLeod, who of course they picked up from Montreal, from Edmonton, and no points from Zucker, who they signed in the offseason. So the new guys not chipping in at this point. Again, it's 2 games. You don't want to panic, but I went with the Buffalo Slug because this could get ugly. No one on this team has a positive plus minus. There are some players who are even, so not really a surprise there. They got no power play goals at all in Prague. That's something that they needed to work on from last year. Last year they had a 16.6% power play, and this year it's at 0. So they dream of that 16.6%. And they didn't have a lead in either game either. Again, they had a decent start to today's game. They couldn't get that first goal. And it really feels like, and I want to throw this in here too, New Jersey this season has to be better than what they were last season. I've seen some saying that I'm overrating them in the power rankings, and people are overrating them in terms of qualifying them as a contender. But what I saw from New Jersey, they're a pretty good team. So maybe Buffalo not having a lead won't be a big deal. But we'll have a better idea once we get to these games here and we see how they play. Because if they lose against LA and Florida, which they could, they absolutely could. LA and Florida, both decent teams. LA was great on the road last season, and Florida, the defending Stanley Cup champions, they could be 0-4. And we could be having a whole other discussion here. Lindy Ruff, you could see the frustration there behind the bench. I do expect him to try to make some changes. But you also have one thing that I don't want to not talk about, that I think is important to talk about, is you do have a lot of new players here. So maybe familiarity is part of the issue. Maybe it gets better. The problem is, again, as I was saying, you have to have that good start to the season. Something I was going to look at was just, good starts, how important are they or aren't they? And look team by team at which ones have had good starts and bad starts and make the playoffs or not make the playoffs. But Buffalo can't afford this. This is already a market where last year you couldn't give tickets away. So many empty seats. So many empty seats in Buffalo last season. And losing both games in Prague probably will not help ticket sales. You want to show the fans, after not making the playoffs in so very long, that this season's going to be different. This season, they're finally going to get it done. And so there's no excitement coming out of those games in Czechia at this point. So Peterka's dealing with a concussion. He was one of the few players who got a point. He had an assist in the first game. So that's troubling. That's a top 6 forward that's out. Obe Kubel, lower body injury for him. So probably day-to-day. And Benson, lower body injury for him. Zach Benson, in his second year, one of those factors to them getting more goals this year than last year would be the improvement, the development of Zach Benson. So there are some reasons for concern here, even when you're just looking at injuries, right? Obe Kubel comes in, and the idea is you're remaking your bottom 6. Well, now you're missing Zach Benson, who I believe is on the third line, and Peterka's a top 6 forward. So now you're already having to mix up your lines, and the season's just started. Dylan Cousins did have 8 shots over the 2 games. Greenway and Thompson both had 6 shots. So the shots are there from guys you want getting those shots. Greenway's never going to be a big goal scorer, but Thompson and Cousins are guys who are being counted on for goals, and both of them getting shots on net. And I thought Tage Thompson today might have been the best of the Sabres, who was not named Devin Levi. Owen Power, in terms of ice time, is the leader for Buffalo, 24 minutes and 5 seconds on average in those 2 games in Prague. And I thought Power looked all right too. But again, if this run continues, if they're not able to win enough games here, Buffalo may very well look at changes. Because if you're Kevin Adams, the pressure's on. If this team has an absolutely miserable season, does Kevin Adams stick around? if this team wins, say, 15 of their first 40 games, does the team decide to make a change then? And what does that change look like? You just hired Lindy Ruff. I don't think Lindy Ruff's going anywhere. So that would just leave Kevin Adams then if ownership decides a change needs to happen. Now, Byram, Quinn, and McLeod all stand out because none of them have a shot on net. So while Quinn, I thought, had good points here and there, he hasn't had a shot on net yet through the first 2 games. And Quinn's considered to be one of those promising goal scorers, so he needs to get to the net. Byram can be good offensively as well, needs to get to the net. Full credit to the New Jersey Devils and their ability to shot block, their ability to play defensively. I thought they really shone, but it also shows that Buffalo, a team that's lacked physicality, a team that at times has been, I don't want to say pushed around necessarily, because I think that's overstating it a little bit, but they're just a little bit off. They're a little bit slower to pucks. And while understanding that the New Jersey Devils this year should be much better, there are troubling signs here if you're a Sabres fan. And I have been, for the last few years, championing the idea that, hey, you know, Buffalo and Vancouver came into the league together. I'd like to see both of them have success. So there you go. Levi comes out of this with a .919 save percentage in the game he played. UPL at an .864 yesterday. I don't think there's a vast chasm between the play by Levi today and Luukkonen yesterday, but Levi was the better of the two. And that's a question that, you know, Lindy Ruff's going to be looking at throughout the season. Which goaltender does he trust? Which goaltender does he feel like is the one that can win him the games? And does it end up being neither of these guys? Just James Reimer end up getting that title? So there are still so many unknowns. It is so very early in the season. But I wanted to talk about Buffalo because, again, if they lose both of these games at home and then they're going out on a 3-game road trip, I would imagine the voices will just get louder from people that say, look, this is enough. It's another miserable year. Buffalo needs to show there's some upward trajectory and they're getting better. And it is not going to be easy. LA won't be easy at home, and Florida won't be easy at home either. These are teams that aren't going to take it easy on Buffalo because they're having a slow start. It's not how hockey works. You guys are having a slow start, oh well, and then you go in and try to beat them as well. So we'll see what happens, but let me know your thoughts. And if you're a Sabres fan, concern, percentage of concern. 0, none. It's early in the season. It doesn't matter. And hey, I like throwing videos like this together. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they beat LA. Maybe they beat Florida. And next Saturday night, I'm talking about, hey, you know what? They rebounded from those games in Prague and look pretty good. And maybe they end up being higher on the power rankings than I think they're going to be right now. But at this point, they look like they're going to end up in the bottom row. But we shall see. It's still very early. And as I said, I am rooting for them to get this going, and maybe this video can help. Because I get told my videos have powers. I don't believe that they do. But when I talk about a team that's on a winning streak, immediately people are in the comments saying, great, you jinxed it. Well, now I'm talking about a team that's winless. So does it work in reverse? Does it not? It doesn't work in reverse? Well, we'll find out. We'll see. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. And again, I want to see Buffalo succeed. I would love to see them win these games and see something positive come out. Maybe Lindy Ruff can get them, you know, to play at their top level. And we'll be talking at the end of October about how that trip to Prague and that 0-2 start really turned it around. It won't be the first time Lindy Ruff's been with a team that had a rough start to the season, who then turned it around, if that's the case. It happened with New Jersey. So that was 2 years ago now that New Jersey gets off to that rough start. There's the fire Lindy chance, and then all of a sudden those became sorry Lindy. So can Lindy do it again? So let me know your thoughts. Do hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I just thought this was a fun video today because we don't have regular season games until the 8th. So why not? But thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.